Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an advanced Dungeons & Dragons advice video on what it takes to be a Dungeon Master. Before I get into this though, if you enjoy my content, it would really help me out if you'd hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share my content on social media, and post a comment or two. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find all 7 of my books there. I like to think that I write good stories that make you think. All right. What it takes to be a dungeon master. My son and I play in a 5th edition game right here in Raton on Sundays. Now, I'm not happy with 5th edition in general, but the DMs we have running the game are awesome. They make the game fun. And that's the key with any role-playing game. It doesn't matter which one you run. The Dungeon Master has to make it fun. That's his responsibility. He's got to challenge the players and make the game fun. That's his 2 primary goals. Now, I'm not a 5th edition person. I'm more of a 1st edition guy. Hence the AD&D advice, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is 1st edition. But here we go. you take what you can get, right? And there, as I understand it, one of the players is going to run a 2nd edition game, which is very similar to 1st. And I'm tickled pink about that. I can't wait. Now, my son ran a short 5th edition game recently, and one of the younger players, a teenager, asked me what it takes to be a dungeon master. My quick response was experience. But I got to thinking, there's so much more than that. I mean, experience is part of it, but there's a lot more to it than just experience. So here we go. Experience in gaming in general is important, but I don't think it's the most important thing. After all, I know game masters who've never played at all. They picked up the rulebook and started running games. Anyone can be a dungeon master or game master. The trick is to be a good dungeon master or game master. How to become a good dungeon master or good game master is a hell of a question. When Dungeons and Dragons first started, they had no dungeon masters. Players picked up the books and said, okay, here we go. Here's what we're going to do. That guy became the dungeon master. Boom, right then. Whoever it was. Or it could have been a girl. We don't know. My contention is they had no experience. They had no idea what the rules were. They picked up the book and went after it. Okay, so the experience is not actually a valid response to that guy, and I should have been better than that. I should have explained it more. But we were in the middle of a game, and, we didn't really have the time. So this is for him. I hope he's watching. I hope he watches this. How to become a good dungeon master or game master is a hell of a question. First off, know the game system. You don't have to know every nuance of every nook and cranny of every sentence of every rule, but be familiar with them. Know where to look stuff up if you need to. That's one of the main things I go by. The second thing, patience and understanding. Every player is different. They all have different ideas and different understandings of everything in the game. I don't know of any 2 players who play the game the same way. Third, honesty. Your players will know when you are lying. Yeah, trust me, they'll know. Be honest. Even if you don't know, say, I don't know. Okay, be honest. 4, be firm. Know when to give in to a player, but know when not to as well. Players will bullshit or bulldoze you when they can. You cannot let them do that. I know a lot of players who feel they know the game system better than you, no matter who you are. I had one player who tried to explain to me how savings throws worked. And I told him that might be that way in other games, but in this game, this is how it works. And he said, but it's Dungeons and Dragons. I said, yeah, and every game master runs their game differently. Keep that in mind. Number 5, improv. Be ready, willing, and able to pull stuff out of your ass at a moment's notice. Be able to make stuff up on the fly. The reason for this is every player is different, and there are no 2 players who are alike. No matter what grand adventure you've got, they're going to go the other direction. It's just the way it is. It's the curse of every game master. in every game, that tabletop role-playing game that's ever happened. See, in video games, there's one way to go. You go that way and you take actions or whatever, but it's very rare that a video game gives you a choice to go different directions. In a tabletop role-playing game, you can go literally any direction, and players will do that. So you have to be able to improv. Number 6, play in other games and with other game masters. Don't be afraid to try new stuff and to adapt. I have an initiative system that I used that I learned when I was in the Air Force. That was, I learned it like roughly 86, mid to late 86. It's when the first time I used it. And I still use it today because it's awesome. As I understand it, it's very reminiscent of what they use in 2nd edition, but it's not exactly. I think they flipped the numbers or whatever. I don't know. But my contention is I still use it. It's not what's in the book, but it works so much better. Don't be afraid to try new stuff and to adapt other game masters' ideas into your system. Okay? Because one thing I can tell you is no matter who you are, you don't know everything. I don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. Be prepared and be willing to try new stuff and to adapt it into your game. That's why you have to play in other people's games, with other game masters and dungeon masters. Number 7, read everything you can. Read. Don't just watch movies. And anybody watches movies these days. You have to read. And I prefer the classics myself. But you have to read everything. I get some of my best advanced Dungeons & Dragons adventure ideas from Louis L'Amour, Leo Tolstoy, Rick Riordan, Zane Grey, James Fenimore Cooper, Robert Louis Stevens, and the Star Wars Legends books. Some of the best adventure stories aren't sword and sorcery, but they can be adapted to it. You see what I'm saying? Anything that gives you different ideas that gets you to think outside the box. One of the worst things I did as a dungeon master was when I ran the same scenario in the same campaign multiple times. That really sucked. You have to have new input of new ideas into your way of thinking. That causes player burnout, dungeon master burnout, and all that stuff. You have to have new ideas or you will burn out. Eventually you run out, your imagination goes kerflooey, and you have to come up with good stuff. It doesn't take a lot of playing in other people's games to realize how stagnant you can become. Trust me on that. I know it firsthand. As for how to run games and to become better, I suggest to the Dungeon Master, here we go. Listen to your players and learn what they want in the game. Know your players. If they want to if they want to be bandits and run around robbing people, tailor your game for that to start out with. You can always morph it later, but start out with that. If they want to be the underdog that saves the country or the nation or the kingdom or whatever, tailor your game for that. Whatever your players want to do is what they want to do. If you tailor your game to be the saving the world kind of thing, and they just want to be bandits, the players are not going to have fun. I mean, it's difficult to make them have fun in that situation. You have to be able to tailor your game to your players. Challenge the characters in every game session. Don't let them sit on their hands. Don't let them sit around and get bored. Challenge them. Challenge them in a way that interests them. Make sure the players have fun. That's one of the key ingredients. I was listening to a video the other day on what it takes to be a good dungeon master, and the guy said, if you try to make every player have fun, it's not gonna work, and you're gonna, you just can't do it. Well, yeah, you can. I've done it myself lots of times. That I disagreed with him on that. He's a good guy. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a good guy. He's a good dungeon master. But the main goal of the game is to have fun. If they're not having fun, they won't play in your game. So you got to make your players have fun. Be consistent. Whatever rule you use today, you have to use tomorrow. Whatever rule you used last week has to apply today. If it doesn't, the players are going to become confused. I did an entire video on this. What was it called? I can't remember what it was called, but I did a video on this. So consistency is the big thing. I think it was on Story Trumps Rules. I think is what it was. It was to sword and the story versus rules. Anyway, my contention is be consistent. Whatever rules you decide to use are fine as long as they're fair and balanced. But you have to use those same rules consistently. If the rules change, the players are gonna know. Pick your battles. You don't have to win every argument with every player. If you try to do that, you are going to lose. Because as I said, nobody knows everything. You do not know everything. I do not know everything. Nobody knows everything. You will eventually lose an argument. And if you're dead set on winning the arguments, you're not concentrating on playing the game. So be sure and pick your battles. Remember, you are there to design adventures. You are not competing with your players. Your task is not to kill them. Killing off player characters is a byproduct of the adventure. If it happens organically in the course of the game, it's not your fault. The players did something that caused that. If you're trying to kill off your players, they have a word for that. It's called a killer dungeon master. And nobody will play in your game. Okay? Remember, you are there to design adventures. You are not competing with your players. Be descriptive of everything from landscapes and locations to NPCs, events, and conversations. If you get into character and play out the conversation between each player and the shopkeeper, it's more fun in the role-playing aspect. If you describe the location of an encounter really well, the players will find it more enjoyable because they can find ways to use the terrain or whatever against the bad guys. If you describe the NPCs, the way they look, how they're dressed, what they're carrying, their facial features, their facial tics, whatever, it brings those NPCs to life for your players. If you be descriptive, it puts the players in that location at that time. Anybody can say, okay, you walk into a tavern and order a drink. What's the tavern look like? How many people are in there? Is it rustic? Is it really well kept? Is the atmosphere somber or fun, lively, or is the place empty and dead because of a funeral next door? You don't know. My contention is be descriptive. Know what every situation looks like. And lastly, prep for every game session to your comfort level. I know players who can, I know dungeon masters, who can write one or two words down and run an entire campaign on that. I know other dungeon masters who have to design every facet of every encounter 8 months in advance. I am somewhere in the middle. There are some things I have to design out, but there are other things that I try to be a little more footloose with because the players do different things. There are some things that are hard and fast points in my campaign that I design that are specific. For example, and I talk about this in other videos, I know what the bad guys are doing. I know how the players can interact with them at every point in the bad guy's plan. If the players don't interact with the bad guy, try to stop him or whatever, the bad guy's plan continues. So on down the line, they're going to run into the bad guy when he's more powerful, when he's got more stuff accomplished, when he's better able to deal with them. Or they might catch him at a point where he's distracted and other stuff's going on. You don't know. My contention there is you prep for your game session to your comfort level. I was in the Air Force, and I played with a guy named Art Schmidt. Art was one of the best game masters I've ever played with. He was brilliant. And I talk about him in other videos too. I had gotten the books for James Bond 007 role-playing in Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I asked Art if he would run it for me. Because it's made to be a solo or a 1 or 2 player game. And so he said, sure, I'll run it. And he had never ever seen the books. He never knew the game system or nothing. Art was brilliant like that. So he took the book and he said, because we had watched one of the James Bond movies had just come out. I can't recall which one it was. But he took this, he took the books and he sat down across from me and he thought for a second, it was not even 10 seconds he thought. And he lifted up the book on the notepad he had and he wrote down just a couple quick Johnny notes. And he ran a campaign that lasted a year on that. That was his prep. Art was brilliant. And on top of that, he was running our D&D game at the time. So yeah, you prep for every game session according to your comfort level, whatever feels right to you. Now, I post a lot of gaming advice and stories on my channel. I sincerely hope that it is all useful for you. If you want some other gaming advice, check out this list. Jenny D. Ginnyddi. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Jenny D. Dimension 20. Dungeon Dudes. DM It All. How to be a great GM. The DM Lair. Dwarven Tavern. Grog Talk. Now there's many more, and this is by no means all of them, but this is a good start. If you want to check out these guys, they do good videos. They put out really good advice. Ultimately, what it takes to be a dungeon master, or more importantly, a good dungeon master, is practice. Grab a rule book, whatever game you want to run. This works for Heroes Unlimited, Recon, whatever, Star Wars, whatever. Grab a rule book of whatever game you want to run, get some friends together, and just pick a starting point and go. Run the game. Make it fun. That's the ultimate goal. Make your players have a good time. Keep running the game. Don't stop ever. Run the game. That's how you become a good dungeon master. Keep running games. That's about all I got there. Anybody who wants to add more to it, or if you want to contradict me, put it in the comments. Anything we can do to help these young dungeon masters is we need to do it, because we need more dungeon masters. If you're playing in one guy's game and you don't like it, go find somebody else's game or run your own. My contention is there are such a varied amount of styles for being a dungeon master that there's too many to label. But if you're running a game, run a game, pick a starting point and go. Run the game, continue running the game, don't ever stop. That's how you get good. Hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good one. God bless one and all. Clarissa Lowe, a historian from the future. Delmore Kane, a Civil War veteran turned outlaw. This oddball pairing faces a conspiracy of epic proportions spanning the centuries. If you like action and adventure westerns with a splash of science fiction and fantasy, check out my book series Drifters and their ongoing adventures.